Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Terroir Talk with the South America Wine Guide, coming soon, the book. Tonight we are talking with Juan Pablo Murgia, who is the winemaker at Bodega Otronia. And I'm super excited because Otronia is one of the most extreme terroirs, not only in South America, but certainly in the world. It's the southernmost vineyard. It's further south than any of the vineyards in Central Otago or in New Zealand. So it's really extreme and a really exciting Tina. Hopefully Juan Pablo is going to join me now. He's in the middle of harvest in Mendoza because he's also the winemaker at Argento. Juan Pablo, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Amanda. Good to see you.
Nice to see you. How is everything? You're in Mendoza, the kind of heartland of Argentine wine. How is everything there at the moment?
Well, here I'm in Mendoza. We are about finishing the whites picking. So in the middle of harvest. Very, very busy right now. And in a few days, I'm going to fly into Otronia because we have just started there with the sparkling bases, and we're going to move into the white harvest of Otronia. So flying from one place to the other one.
Excellent. Before we get into the details of Otronia, I just want to make sure that everyone understands exactly where it is, because this is so far off of the viticultural map. It's a brand, Chubut is a new wine region. Can you explain exactly the distance from Mendoza to Sarmiento, where you are in Otronia?
All right. Well, it is very far south direction. As you said, it's Chubut, that it's kind of a new province in Argentina. We have several projects in Chubut. Most of them in the northern west part that we call the Andean part, but Otronia is not there. It's southern, almost at the limit with Santa Cruz. That is the next Patagonian province. So we are 50 kilometers at the limit of Santa Cruz. So this is, if I have to go on the road, it's 2,000 kilometers driving. I've never do that. I've never done that. Drive from Mendoza to Sarmiento, always by plane, because it's very far away.
Excellent. And how did this project start? Because you're part of a kind of winery group. You've got wineries in Mendoza, you've got wineries in Uruguay, these classic wine regions. Why plant at the fin del mundo, at the end of the world? What inspired the project?
Well, it has to be with that, with the wine group, the Bulgaroni family, that they started by the year 2007 or 8 approximately with Garzon, with some projects in Mendoza and all over the world, as you know. The family has two properties, one of them in Rio Negro and the other one in Sarmiento, both with cherries trees farming. And it was the year 2008, and the family decided to have a Patagonian project. So we studied both places. Rio Negro is awesome. It's one of my favorite places. But Sarmiento was something, was like an adventure, like an extreme adventure. So they decided to go there, and it was a big risk because now we have wines. We have a great result that I will not say that nobody expected, but we have some doubts. Now we are, happy because of the results. But by those days, there was like a big, mysterious, like a question point on this. But we did it. We planted in the year 2010, the first 10 hectares approximately. Now we have 50 hectares, and it was well, completely different from the rest of the wine regions we know, because because of this extreme latitude. This is parallel 45, 33. Well, this is the southernmost vineyard in the world, at least with this size. You know, this is a 50-hectare vineyard. We have a winery with all with all that we need there, and we are producing the wines and bottling the wines there. So it's like a complete project with a target of 20,000 cases. So we will be able to provide this wine all over the world, and at this extreme place. So this is, for me, this is one of the most amazing things, that the size of this project and the diversity. But about the latitude, this place comes with some extreme factors that make this place so special. For me, well, I've been flying there to understand the vineyard and the wines, and what I've seen in the last year is, I think the most important factor here is temperature. This is a real cold place. It's a desert, you know. This is a plateau desert. We are about 200 meters above sea level, a typical Patagonian, you know, landscape. But not the one, not the Andean wine, you know, with the trees and all the rivers. We have a lot of water here, but this is desert. It's very dry, and the temperature is very extreme. You know, the average, it's very cold. If you compare with, for example, Mendoza, Uco Valley in Mendoza, we have a vineyard in Altamira. The average temperature there is 13.5, 14 approximately the whole year. In Otronia, we'll have 11, for example. So it's very, you know, cold, but extreme, because during day you can have very warm temperatures. Now we have a 30, 32 Celsius, so it's very hot. It's like Mendoza. But at night or in the morning, we can have 5 Celsius. We can have 0. We can have frozen, actually, in summertime. So this is what makes very extreme this place, you know, and the contribution to the grapes and to the wines is a very intense acidity, very sharp acidity, but at the same time with good ripeness, with a very good ripeness. Well, the average alcohol in our wines is 13% approximately. So you have this great acidity that help us to develop this, you know, deep, fresh, and elegant profile in the Pinot Noir or in the whites. But at the same time, you have this alcohol that, you know, make this balance, you know, the sweet and the sour. Because at the beginning we thought that the wines would never go, you know, more than 11. So actually the first concept was to make sparkling wines here. Actually we do that. It's part of the project, but we understood with the years that there is such a radiation, such a lightness in this place that help us to develop the ripeness and the sugar we need to you know, to get this balanced. So so I think this factor temperatures makes a big difference in the wine profiles. Of course, we have to protect ourselves against these frozens. We have a system, spray system, so we freeze all the vegetable structure, the surface, when there is a frozen risk, that help us to survive. Actually, last season we only have one, but was 7 Celsius -0. So it's a deadly temperature, but we can survive with this defense, this water defense, and we are about to harvest our record in terms of yield. So it really works. So it's pretty amazing.
I have got some incredible photos, but I cannot. My photos are unable to appear at the moment. I don't understand what's happened. But I will upload them on the website as soon as we finish this talk so that people can look. Incredible photos there. And one of my favorite ones is actually the winter, where it's just covered in snow. So before we kind of talk of the challenges of the vintage, can you paint us a picture of this winter time? How cold does it get? And it's not just snow that makes it cold, but you know, temperatures and wind. Can you explain to us some of the kind of most extreme conditions you get there?
Well, of course, winter time is very hard here. Of course, the vines are asleep. You know, there is no risk in terms of damage. Well, last winter we have minus 15 approximately. This is kind of a limit of the negative temperature that a vine can survive, even if it's sleep. You know, it's in dormation time. But that's one of the things we thought about this, that some vines, you know, death, but they are okay, they are alive, and they survive. I don't know, we'll see in the future. Maybe if we have a stronger winter time, we will you know, understand if there is some risk of damage. But by far it's very cold at winter time, very, very cold. I've been there in June, and it's freezing. The roads are freezing, you know, freezed. But I think the most amazing things here is the morning temperatures during springtime and summertime. I was saying that we have you know, frozen in last October of -7, and we have the vines with all the small green parts, and this is what, and we have an average very cool average temperature during the green you know, cycle of the vine. So that's what makes the difference, that allow us to have very cold nights, that help us to keep the acid, the malic acid, and allow us to pick the grapes with a very low pH and ferment and have this you know, very pure and fresh profile of the Otronia wines.
Super. And what did you first plant? So you said that you first were aiming for sparkling wine because you thought it was too cold to make still wine. So what were your first kind of plantings there?
Well, we first planted Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, a little bit of Stramina, because, well, we you know, we have an inspiration in the Champagne, in Burgundy, so we selected Burgundian clones and Champagne clones, and of course the Straminers, thinking about Mosella, for example, and a little bit of Merlot, because Mr. Bulgaroni liked Merlot, and we decided to develop, and we're having great results because we have just bottled our first Merlot, and it's amazing. It's going to be released by next year, by the end of this year. So there was approximately 10 hectares at the beginning, but thinking about mostly in sparkling wines, because, as I said before, because of the temperature, we thought that we would never have a good ripeness. But the thing is, because the green cycle of the vines is shorter than a normal place, at Mendoza, for example, we are picking 1 month later, so it's like a month less, you know. But there is a factor that by the end of the springtime and at the beginning of summertime, the day length is larger than in Mendoza. It's an hour and a half larger. So at 11 p.m. is still some light. So the vines are still doing photosynthesis, and they compensate this lack of period, you know, this shorter period. And well, we can pick Merlot with 14 alcohol percentage. So it's amazing, because you have this, you have this freshness, this, you know, this for me, the acidity is like the soul of the wine, and we have this strong acidity, but at the same time this ripeness, and the combination, it's a great balance.
Excellent. Wonderful. I can't wait to hear a bit more about your Merlot later. It's interesting because for me, that's one of the varieties that everyone plants in Chubut, even though, even though it doesn't logistically make much sense. But we'll start with your first wine, which is your blend, 45 Rugientes. Can you tell us what Rugientes means?
This is what I am having right now, my first wine.
Yes, absolutely. I'm already tasting it and really enjoying it. But tell us about the name, because it's it's a Spanish word that is really difficult to pronounce for us non-native speakers. What does it refer to?
Well, the name is actually 45 Rugientes. So 45. Well, it's about the latitude. We are in the parallel 45-33, so there is 45 grade. And Rugientes is very interesting. It has to be with, it has to be with the wind, because we haven't talked about wind conditions. This is the most extreme condition in this place. I'm going to explain you why. But because it is the heart of Patagonia, for Argentina and Patagonian, and wind is every day, it's very frequently, it's a very normal factor here. And there is a classification in the ocean, in the Pacific, in the Atlantic Ocean, depending on the latitude, that was used by the ships, but at the 19th century or older, and they classified different parallels with names. Parallel 14 was aulladores, like a wolf. The 45 was Rugientes. It has to be with the difficult of the ocean to navigate there, because of the effect of the wind. And the parallel 45 was called Rugientes by those sailors, British sailors, and they classified this latitude with Rugientes. So we are in this latitude with the 45, and wind is such an important factor here, that we decided to use this word to mention this.
Cool. When I googled it to try and understand it, it also came up with roar. It means roaring, which
Yes.
I imagine the wind must roar, literally, because you've told me before that you can have up to 100 kilometers per hour wind. Is that right?
Yes, and we have some records that 120, almost 130. It's the record of the town, but well, the average could be 70, 80 in a hard day, but you can have 100. Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, it's like roar. You said, well, it's a roar. It's the sound, because Rugientes is like roar. It's the sound of the wind in the waves in the ocean. So yeah, it's a very nice name.
I've come up with a solution for my inability to put up photos. I'm going to flip my screen and show it from my computer. So I'm going to show you the vineyard, and perhaps you can explain what you do about the wind and how you kind of protect these vines, because it must tear them up, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yes, wind is the second most important factor in terms of it's more dangerous than temperature, because a very strong wind would make an erosion on the vines, so it would be impossible to plant and to keep the vines safe without any protection. And the protection has to be with trees. We planted many trees all over the surface, in between blocks, to protect them. And we installed some nets between the rows and between the blocks. The trees, you need approximately 10 years to leave the trees to grow and to become an effective protection, because of the density, the tall, the height of the trees. and they start at the year number 10. There's tend to be a very, very effective potential, but in the meanwhile, we are waiting to grow, waiting them to grow. But in the meantime, we installed some nets to reduce the wind speed and the wind effect on the vines. And the final result is the vines are safe. That's the only reason why we have wines. But we have a very interesting effect, because this wind, when it's controlled, allow us to have a very, very well balanced yields. Well, those are ultra premium or icon wines, and in this kind of wine, you need a very balanced vine with an average yield of, I don't know, 7 or 8 tons per hectare, no more than that. And well, the natural yields of the vines are those. Well, in Pinot Noir, it's maybe 6 or 7. It's very low for a new vineyard, and this is because of the wind, because the vines are here trying to survive against temperature and against wind. And the other effect is of the juice inside the the fruit. Normally in another place you can have, I don't know, 75% of juice inside a bay. Here is 55, 60 maybe, because the skins are so thick, and we have a lot of solids in the liquid, so we have a great extraction, a lot of flavors, a lot of taste, and so it's one of the most important factors with at the same time with temperature. I always say that well, if I have to choose them, I will choose them again, because they make us to have very hard time protecting against those factors, but at the same time they cause an effect in the wines. This kind of flavors, this kind of taste, the profile of this wine, is because of this extreme place,
Excellent. Wonderful. That's super interesting. And I'd like to, before we because we're going to move through, we've got 4 of your 4 wines to taste tonight. So before we move on, I want to talk about this blend, because this is such a different blend. I think it's probably the only blend in Argentina that is Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris and Chardonnay. I can't think of any others. And it's such a different wine. It's such a different, for me, it smells like Gewürztraminer, but it tastes like Chardonnay, and the Pinot Gris kind of balances it out. But it's such a cool climate expression of Gewürztraminer, completely dry, very kind of delicate blossom notes, a very pretty wine. What kind of went through your mind in terms of making this blend, and how is it that you kind of like to kind of get it to the glass in terms of its winemaking?
Well, this blend, it's born, of course, in the vineyard. I have to explain the blend. I have to explain you how the vineyard is divided, and and what we do, and then it's the blend. It's is the result of that. This is a 50-hectare vineyard. Is subdivided in 50 blocks, an average of 1 hectare approximately, and we have different Pinot Noir blocks. We have different Chardonnay blocks. We have a couple of Gewürztraminer blocks, an older one from the 2010, and new ones from 16 and 17. Then we have Pinot Grigio, or Pinot Grigio. Well, we thought that this cool climate will develop a very sharp Pinot Grigios, and actually it does. And we vinified all of them separately in very small batches. We have a very specific winery design it to the vineyard, to the blocks, and we aged very, all the batches separately. And then, of course, we classified them, and we found that there was a very deep character on the Chardonnay that goes to the Otronia, that we're going to talk later. And then we have very different components of Chardonnay of Stramina and Pinot Grigio, and we started playing with them by blending. One of the ideas was to make 100% Stramina because of the flavor, because of this blossom profile, this very floral flavor. But then we tried to blend it with Pinot Grigio, and the Pinot Grigio has this strong acidity, this minerality. Is such a good blender. And then we tried some Chardonnay that were so this floral flavor and this very sweet but at the same time sharp profile. And well, we decided to blend, and the result was awesome. We decided to put it into a blend, and we've been trying every year, and we decided to keep doing that. This blend, you are trying the 2018. It's approximately 25% of Stramina. The previous vintage was higher, but it's still, the first feeling that you find is Stramina, because it's so present. This flowerness that is so typical from Stramina. And I have tried Stramina before in the past, but never as in this place, with this deep character,
Absolutely. I think for me, with Chardonnay and Pinot are the stars of Chubut, but I think Gewürztraminer is the kind of new unsung hero. There's a couple really nice Gewürztraminers being made in Chubut, yours being one of the top ones. And I think it really kind of shows a totally different side to Argentina, which is really exciting, because we just, Gewürztraminer just doesn't work in many of Argentina's wine regions, but it really sings here, and gives you a really delicate but perfumed and beautiful wine. Can we move on to talking about Pinot Noir, because this is obviously a variety that you're very much championing in Otronia, and you talked about separating all of your parcels. I think this would be a good moment to start talking a bit about soil as well, and what kind of soil you have there and why you've separated it. And I'll show some of the plots, some of the photos that you sent me in a very unsophisticated manner. Here we go.
Okay, well, I think to continue the concept of the place, because we talked about temperature, we talked about wind and sunlight, but there is a last factor that allow us to make this possible, because the previous factors would be useless if you don't have a good soil to plant. And then we discovered this soil at the beginning of the project, and it's amazing because we found 4 types of soil. So that's the reason we divided this property in 50 blocks. Some of the blocks are dominated by this kind of soil, one of the 4 kind of soils. Some of them are mixed in different proportions. I'm going to describe briefly the kind of soils. One of the most typical profile and texture of soil here is sand, because well, it's very logical, because this is a very windy place, and sand is always coming with the wind from from different regions, all over the area. So we can have some very 80% of sand, and the rest is a little bit of clay, for example. And Chardonnay really developed very good profile on these sandy soils. Then we have stony soils that has to be with 2 kinds of stones. One of those is the fluvial stones, that very small stones, different from what we have on the feet of the Andes, that are very big rounded stones. Here are smaller, between 1, 2, or 3 centimeters of diameter. And those stones came with the river, with the Senga River, because we didn't mention, but we are just on the side of the Mosters Lake. This is the 4th larger lake in Argentina. So this lake fills with the Senga River, and the Sangre River, it's been bringing material, and these stones are some of the components of the Otronia soils. The other kind of stones are this is a mother rock coming from very small hill that separate us from the lake. That it's what makes that we are not underwater, separate us from the lake. And this has to be with non-shape rocks of different size. It's like broken rocks that are like limestone composition rocks, and we found them in different sizes. The majority part is, we call them interclasts, and they are in different proportions in the soil. And then the last kind of soil, it's clay. And this is my favorite kind of soil, the clay, because this is not a regular clay. It's a bottom lay clay. It's pretty, great. I've never worked in the past with the soil that used to be the bottom of a lake. This place was 2,000 years ago. We did a geological research on this property, and we found that because we are in the middle of two lakes. I mentioned the Muster Lake, and we have another lake that is very close to the vineyard too, that is called the Colue Guapi. It's kind of a dry lake, or it's it's filled with 2 meters of well, you can see there in the picture there is the two lakes. On the left is Muster, on the right is the Colue Guapi. But the property and Sarmiento town used to be under the water, 2,000 years ago. So if we dig in our property, we're going to find a lot of clay. It's like a multi-layer clay. It's very, very special clay, and we're having, I think, the best results in this kind of soil. For example, the Pinot Noir Block 1 is coming from a clay, high proportion of clay. The Chardonnay too, the Gewürztraminer too. Of course, they are coming from the older vineyards, the older vines. But this clay is amazing, and it's like good green clay.
What is beneficial about the clay? Is it the water holding capacity? What is it that's good about it?
Well, I think Pinot Noir. I'm thinking about Pinot Noir and why the Otronia Block 1 is coming from there. I think Pinot Noir like some organic matter, some humidity, some water retention, and because we need a nice vigor on the Pinot Noir, and this is a very dry place and very extreme place. So to help the vine to grow with more organic material and to develop, more stronger canopy, help us to have a, fresher profile and a deeper profile. And of course, the results every year, says to us that block number 1 is our, we have the preference on that block. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of factors that we haven't discovered yet, because we are about to start we started with sparkling basis. This is our 5th harvest. So I think we're going to learn more and more. There are some, mysterious that we have in this place. We are trying to understand them more and more. But we are checking on those results, and they are very good. Actually, Chardonnay is coming from same kind of soil, the 3 and 6. We are steam blending both, and the results are great.
Absolutely. I mean, I think I tried your first vintage. I couldn't believe that your first vintage came out as well as it did, considering it's such a and completely never planted before there, and so extreme in temperatures and everything. Before we move on to your kind of Chardonnay, I really want to talk about these wines that we're tasting. So we've got 2 together, but very different in profile. So the 4, 5, 45 Rugientes. And then 1. Do you call this block 1 or Otronia 1?
Well, 1. But I say block because I'm always thinking about the blocks, and I I have the map on my mind, but it's Otronia 1, but it's because it's coming from block number 1, but it's 1. Sorry.
Perfect. So let's talk about the 45 Rugientes. This is a blend of plots, is that right?
Yeah, 45 Rugientes in white and red are blends. The thing is, in the Pinot Noir is a blend of Pinot Noir, of different Pinot Noirs that are coming from different blocks. As I said, different blocks of stony soils, sandy soils, more clay, more, the different profiles, different texture of soils that give us different profile. I found more floral profile in some of the blocks, more mineral, more herbal notes. Some are more red fruity, and I think I found 45 Rugientes much more interesting in terms of, or fun in terms of the tools you have, because in Otronia 1 or the Chardonnay, it's so easy because you have it there. It's so intense, and it's obviously that it's going to be at the Otronia label because they are so outstanding. But in 45 Rugientes, you have different ingredients, and we love to play by blending. Well, I work with Alberto Antonini, you know him very well, so we put all the different batches of Pinot Noir and we start to play, to mix different proportions, and 45 Rugientes is the result of that. It's a combination of different Pinot Noir from different blocks with different profiles.
Excellent. And so different blocks, different soil, perhaps different aspect. Are you talking about different clones, or are we all planted with the same genetic material?
Yes, but well, that has to be with the origin of the project, because as I said before, we thought about sparkling. We thought, I don't know if we will be able to make Pinot Noir of at least, I don't know, 12% of alcohol. This is an average of 13 right now. Mm. But even though we decided to go with both clones, with the Burgundian clones and the Champagne clones. But the thing is, sometimes we have the opposite results. We have better results for still wines with Champagne clones, and we have better result for the sparkling basis with Burgundian clones. So it's not that, it's not so straight. We change some things, and then results are very, very good, because, well, the clone, when you say that there is a Burgundian clone or a Champagne clone, is because, of course, it's adapted to all these completely different regions. Of course, Champagne is very, very cold, but sometimes these clones can have a different behavior in another place, in another soil. I would say in Mendoza, if you make Pinot Noir in Mendoza, it's very highly probable that you're going to make a still Pinot Noir with a Champagne clone, because we have more tradition making sparkling wines in Mendoza than making still Pinot Noirs.
Interesting. So what is the clone that goes into your block 1, or just Otronia 1?
I always have to check, but it's 777, I think. Okay. I'm almost sure. It's a Burgundian clone.
Super. And what is it that makes this wine stand out? So for me, what I love about 45 Rugientes is it's really crunchy. It's for me, it's quite mineral and quite bloody, and definitely has that really kind of tart cherry. And it's quite a fun wine. It's the kind of thing I'd like to kind of drink with food, and have with friends. Whereas I think Otronia 1, I'd like to have to myself with a good book and maybe candlelight. It's much more seductive. That makes me sound terribly selfish drinking it alone, but it's the kind of wine that you'd really like to kind of enjoy. It's much more seductive and silky, but also really has that fresh acidity. What is it for you that kind of stands out about 1? Why do you always separate it?
Well, 1 is, I always like to say that Otronia 1 is multi-layer flavors. and it's a wine. It's a wine that it's one of the most amazing things of this wine is if you leave in your glass. I Well, I don't like to say that you need time for the wine because nobody has time right now in this crazy war. But if you have the time and you put this Otronia one in your glass, it's going to start opening minute by minute, and it's going to start develop different layers and profiles and moments. At the beginning, the first smell is a little bit of powder, a little bit of reduction that is so attractive. I love this kind of flavors at the beginning. I will never use a decanter in this wine, at least by this moment. Maybe, I don't know, 10 years later, we can think about it. But now at the beginning, you have this, earthy, mineral, powder sensation, and then comes the fruit, start to appear the red fruit, because it's a very, very red fruity wine, because it's coming from a very cold place and has a very nice acidity and a low pH, and that always helped you to develop this red fruity, and it has to be with the grape. Pinot Noir is red fruity normally, but a very, very intense, deep red fruit. And then I find these herbal notes that has to be with the place, because, well, I didn't mention that this is a organically grow vineyard, but the concept is it's organically certified, but that's not the main concept. The concept here is to go very natural on this vineyard. It's the same concept that we apply to in Argento vineyards in Mendoza, to respect the soil, to respect the environment. We leave all the natural weeds we have on this extreme Patagonian place, and some of them are very, very aromatic. We have a lot of thyme here. It's I said it well, thyme, like tomillo.
Yeah, perfect. Thyme.
Yeah, and well, about mint, natural, weeds of mint. There is one specific herb that I love. That it's called pico. It's very local and has this kind of a green tea flavor. And we leave them grow. We cut them, we chop them, but we leave them grow. Well, it's the picture as you see there. This is the Otronia vineyard. This is winter time. Now it's all green, but you have a lot of animals. You have a lot of rabbits there, a lot of fox, a lot of insects, pumas, all kind of animals there. Yeah, we've seen them.
Pumas.
Well, they are there. This is the middle of the Patagonian desert. The town is, I don't know, 5 miles from there, and the rest is it's open fields. So we have a lot of animals and biodiversity there. But my point is, we have some effect of those factors, especially the weeds that are in the wine. And because when you go there and you walk through the vineyards and you feel these flavors, the pico is the most typical one. This green tea, this like dry grass sensation. It's always on the wine. And well, I think this has to be with terroir, isn't it? Terroir is about that. It's about the place flavors. And one of the most amazing things is if you leave this wine for 1 day or 2, maybe 3 days, the wine is going to be there, opening and developing different flavors, and it's not going to die very, it's going to keep, giving you flavors. So I recommend that with the block one. I recommend you to drink all the wine, all the bottle, but if you can leave a little bit of a wine, it's a great experience.
I think that's the mark of a great wine. And it was the first time someone really explained that to me. I was with Alberto and also his business partner in Altos, Attilio, 2 Italians who, when we were drinking Brunello, and they were like, look, Amanda, we shouldn't be drinking this tonight because it's going to be way better tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And ever since that discussion, I have always kept wines and tried the next day and the third day. And for me, sign of a really good wine is that it just gets better. Not necessarily better, but it evolves and it changes, and it's great for 2 or 3 days. So I'm going to take your. I'm definitely going to try that again tomorrow. I love your kind of ethos of the whole. It's the whole group. It's not just Otronia, but this kind of biodiversity, really kind of sustainable production. And focusing on organic. And I know we're going to have a discussion later in the year, a talk about organics, which I think would be super interesting. So okay. Thank you for bringing that up. I want to move on. Before we move on to the Chardonnay, I wanted to ask you a bit about your viticulture, trellising system, and if you can touch on frost, because I know those are two kind of major important things. So can you tell us, and some MW students were asking me to ask you specifically about your trellising. So can you tell us about your trellising system, what you do to kind of protect your bunches from the extreme weather, and your frost protection systems?
Well, the training system is double Guyot. There is no secret there. It's the same training system that we use in our Altamira, in Mendoza, and Agrelo vineyard, the Argento projects, and we are using the same concept in Otronia. There is no, it's a double Guyot. But the only way of surviving here is the frost fight with water. We are on the side of the Muster Lake, and the Muster Lake has a channel that connects with the Colhuehuapi. The Colhuehuapi is the other lake. So there's a big channel, and we take the water from that channel to irrigate and to do the freeze fight. And this is the concept of this kind of technique of protection. This is not a not something that we developed. That it's very well. It's not common, but it's used in other places in the world. For example, in the Casablanca Valley, the western project of Casablanca, they have to use this technique. Some Alsacia or some places in the Moselle, they use the same technique, and it's about making a nice protection. It's like an igloo. It's like an igloo in the Antarctic area. So inside the ice, this block of ice, you can have all your green, your cells, the vine cells, the vine structure, the green part is inside the ice. So as you know, ice point of fusion of freezing is 0 Celsius. At that temperature, the vines is safe. It's not going to suffer any cellular damage. Outside can be -1, 2, -5, -7. For example, last October we have a -7 temperature in morning. So that it's a deathly temperature for a vine at the moment of, at the green cycle. If it's on dormition in wintertime, there's no problem. But if you have a green structure like the one on your photograph, a -5 frost could be deathly for the vine. But inside the ice, this structure is 0 Celsius, so it's safe. And then during the day, this ice get melt, and suddenly the vines are again doing photosynthesis. It's amazing. It's great. It's quite amazing, but it happens. It works that way. And well, we are about to pick, as I said before, our record harvest in the next weeks. So we are very, very happy. I repeat again, wind is much more dangerous than temperature in this place.
Interesting, super. But I think it's definitely worth the worth the effort, because now we're going to take for one of the star kind of wines of Otronia for sure, but also one of the star kind of Chardonnays, I think, a rising star in Argentina. So this is Otronia 3 and 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 3 and 6. camera.
It's Roman. Yeah, it's it happened the same with me with Roman numbers. I never remember them.
So 3 and 6. Can you tell us a little bit about 3 and 6, and how you've isolated these two plots and why they're so special?
Well, it's the same. It's very simple. There is no big secret behind this wine. It's a very simple concept. We vinify all the blocks separately, and then we try them. We taste them. Well, there is a small secret. Block number 3. It's in a specific clone that it tastes very special. For me, it tastes like Sauvignon Blanc. It's
Uh-huh.
not. It's not because I go there every year and check on that. Hey, this is Chardonnay. Yeah, this is Chardonnay. Of course, it's a clone 96. There's a number. But the result of this clone in these soils always give us this kind of specific flavor that has to be with teals. Very floral. I don't know what you have the 2018 on your glass,
Yes,
or the 17.
218.
Okay, well, the 18 was a very special because we have a very long fermentation, and I think the flavors went in a more honey caramel flavor, but at the same time keeping this floral profile of block number 3, and well, the combination with number 6, that is very special too. And I think it has a sharper acidity than the 17. The 17 was more like floral, and this is a kind of a more deeper and vertical profile of Chardonnay. But well, it always has this flavor. No, it's this deep character, floral, with this kind of white peach profile, but at the same time honey. So it's very complex wine, and very sweet, but at the same time with this fresh acidity. It's a dry wine, but you're gonna feel the sweetness, and this I always find this saltiness. That's the word I was trying to find. Saltiness does make this wine to taste, very deep in character, and this has to be with the natural acidity. We have a lot of malic acid. We are not doing malolactic fermentation in this wine. It tastes like malolactic, but it's not. It's not malolactic, but has this saltiness. And of course, this is a 2 years aged wine in French untoasted oak tunnels of 5,000 liters. And I think this give an extra complexity layer, on the palate, on the flavor. So it's a very special wine.
Absolutely. I think you've described it beautifully. What I love about this Chardonnay, as you've said, is that really linear frame underneath, and this great kind of savory quality, and the salinity and the kind of darting acidity, but then it's got this kind of this breadth around it, this kind of slightly bigger kind of body that I guess comes from the oak aging, and that kind of lovely dried chamomile note. It's a very Chardonnay, and I think it's incredible with such young wine that it's achieving such complexity and interest, and I can't wait to see what happens as your vineyards get older and you've done more vintages in this brand new region. What do you think, because we're coming close, we're running out of time, what do you think is the future of Otronia and also of Chubut as an emerging wine region in Argentina?
Well, we are trying to figure that out. I think, Pinot Noir, I have I don't know if I can be objective because I love Pinot Noir. I grow up in the Malbec land, but and I love Malbec because it's the wine I do most. But I love Pinot Noir, and we found here a great place for Pinot Noir. The vines are still young, and the results are amazing. But I'm quite sure that the future of Pinot Noir here is going to be great. So I have a lot of faith on Pinot Noir development, and half of the vineyard is Pinot Noir here for the sparkling and for still wine. So I think we're going to have fun here with Pinot Noir, and of course we have a new grapes that we're going to release next year. We have a Malbec, very small, very small. It's going to be a few bottles. We have a Riesling that we are waiting to grow because we planted in the year 2017. But Merlot is coming, is bottled. Sparkling wine, it's ready. It's on the market. I don't know if this year we're going to go export because sparkling is more focused on the local market, and we have just a few, I don't know, 4,000 bottles. But the sparkling project is growing. We are about to make double or triple that volume. So we're going to export sparkling from the southernmost vineyard in the world. So this is going to, this is very special. And what else? Well, we have an orange wine. Yeah, okay. It's kind of the research that I think we're going to. It started as a research, but we tried 2 weeks ago, and the results. And listen, it's Torrontés, so it's awesome. Yeah, it's the southernmost Torrontés in the world. So we have Torrontés. I didn't mention we have Torrontés. Now it's an orange wine. It's a kind of a research and development program, but it's bottled, and I think we're gonna have some bottles of that. So, and I forgot, we have a dessert wine. It's amazing. It's
yeah, you have to do ice wine. You're pretty much the only one that can do it in Argentina.
Well, we try that because the morning temperature are so cold that allow us to freeze the grapes. But the thing is during day temperature rise very extreme, and they started to melt. But we did a kind of because we picked them very frozen. And we have it's a blend of Chardonnay and Stramina. It's bottled and it's going to be released by the end of the year. And it's amazing. It's a beautiful wine.
Excellent. I can't wait. Sounds like there's so much more to try. So let's do this tasting again. Thank you so much, Juan Pablo. That's been great. And I promise that on southamericawineguide.com, I'm going to upload all of the beautiful photos.
Great. Thank you.
And thank you. Cheers and good luck with the vintage.
Thank you, Amanda. It was a pleasure to chat with you, and anytime, let me know. We can talk about wines.
Super. We're going to be doing organics Argento. All right.
Great. Awesome.
Bye.